Biggest surprise. I went with an event. And, you can talk about, okay, Donovan Brazier didn't make the Olympic team. That was a surprise. You could talk about, Elaine Thompson running 10:54. That was a surprise. But I went with the men's 100 as a whole. The reason I did is there were surprises all along the way. There were surprises at the U.S. trials. There were surprises uh, at the Olympics. There were surprises post-Olympics. There was a surprise in the lead up to the Olympics. So we had just multiple different versions of this event. And I want to take us back, Gordon, to a debate that we had at the beginning of the outdoor season. And it was, is Lyles or Bromell the favorite for 100-meter gold? And neither of those guys made the final. Neither of those guys made the final. Only one guy even made the team. So you start off first with Lyles struggling in the 100. That was a surprise. But then you have the emergence of Fred Curley early on in the season. You have Bromell running phenomenally. And it looks like, hey, U.S. could sweep this thing. You go to trials. You get a solid team for the U.S. with Bromell, with Baker, with Curley. Then you have the actual event. Bromell doesn't look like himself in Tokyo, doesn't make the final. All these people run crazy fast in the semis. And then it's Marcel Jacobs of Italy, someone who most people had not heard of, especially in the context of the 100, winning gold. Italy goes on and wins the 4x1, also surprising, which if you want to extend the 100 to the 4x1. Then post-Olympics, Lamont Jacobs doesn't run at all. And then you have Trayvon Bromell going and then getting a PR at the end of the season. And Fred Curley running exceptionally well. And DeGrasse doing what DeGrasse is doing. But just for the trajectory of all those things, or trajectory of all those athletes, some of them up, some of them trending down, all happening at random times, it was a surprising event. If I gave you that top three for the Olympics, you would have said that's crazy. You would have guessed DeGrasse, but there's no way you would have said Jacobs for gold or Fred Curley for a medal either. So
Yeah, I mean, you have Coleman out, Bromell back in, Noah Lyles back out, then you have Fred Curley back in, and then you have
Curley
Baker
silver,
out.
DeGrasse bronze. Sorry,
Yeah,
I mixed
so
that
it's
up.
like you just had all these big names surprisingly enter, surprisingly exit.
Yeah.
You're like, why is Fred Curley in here? Why is Coleman out? It's just all these different things.
Oh, I
mean,
didn't
we
talk
know
about
why.
Coleman.
Yeah, we know why all these things happen. Right? Curley's a hell of an athlete, and Coleman went to get a burrito during the Giants-Eagles Monday Night Football game, and
Yeah.
I think maybe he was basically the first domino. I feel like him going to get that burrito and not being back in time for that test in December was what triggered the craziest event of the year, which is
Canary in the
2
coal
year.
mine.
Yeah. And I think it's only going to get crazier, right? Because none of these people like are aging out, right? I mean,
yeah,
they're all still in their prime, and you're going to throw in a Coleman, and you're going to throw in healthier athletes, right? So you have to think that this isn't the last of this craziness. I feel like it's going to get even more crazy.
Well, on the U.S. side, though, it looks like you have that. We talked about that solid group. Remember we named that 8 when we were talking with Marvin Bracey. We had him in the pod because you're thinking Coleman's going to be back, Bromell, Curley, Baker, Bednarik, Bracey, Michael Williams, real young. I mean, he's got a bright future. I'm probably forgetting someone on the U.S. side. I don't know if I even named everybody. And then you throw in the international runners, like you want to see what Jacobs has. Obviously, DeGrasse is consistent, and now he's got the individual gold from the 200. But yeah, every step of the way was unbelievable. I like the way you described that. Have people entered and exited at like the most inopportune times. It was like an improv skit, like run amok. Basically, it's just like people go. I'm here now. I'm out. Like you can trust me. Now I'm gone. Like if you took all of our conclusions and all of our opinions that we had on the podcast and made like a supercut of the 100, it would be all over the place by the time you got to the end of the season.
Like
The
imagine
amount of
this.
people
If
we were confident in is like totally wrong by the end.
imagine going up to someone on the street to talk about track, and you're going to be shocked that Trayvon Wilmel doesn't make the Olympic final. And you'd be
Yeah.
like, I'm going to be shocked. The guy ran 10.5 this year. He's done. His
Yeah.
career's
Yeah. Yeah.
over,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to be shocked that this guy who hasn't run fast in 2 years is going to not make the final. But lo and behold, we were shocked because he went on to have incredible 2020 and 2021, and then we were shocked that he didn't make it. So it's like shocked that he's there, shocked that he's not. Shocked. It's just all this craziness. So,
Yeah. Um, Someone asked in the chat, would you rather have it like this or have one person dominate again?
oh, I like this better. I don't like one dominating. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to that there's any given day it's gonna be a different. It's like watching a football game, right?
Hmm.
Any given day, they say any given Sunday,
Yeah.
your team can win, and that there's not like a dominant team because it's hard to have that type of. I like parity, especially in track, because when it's the same winner. I mean, it's fun when there's no parity, when that person who's winning is like chasing records. That's cool because then you're like, oh, all
Yeah.
right, record attempt, record attempt. But when there's not a record attempt and it's someone just dominating, it's not as entertaining. You want to see people lose, come back, win again, and then you're like, oh, you got it wrong this time, right? Perfect for
Yeah.
betting too.
On that same note, though, when there's parity, but the people aren't like they don't have the compelling stories like we did in the 100, it's also not that fun. I think of the men's 800 this year,
True. Men's
which
eight,
was
yeah,
a very forgettable year for the men's 800 across the board. And it wasn't just because Brazier was hurt; it was just because no one really rose to the occasion, and there were a
yeah,
lot of not that fast times. The races weren't that interesting, and you did have a fair bit of parity. And we could look at the Diamond League winners, but there's something special about the 100-meter group right now that's interesting. I think a lot of it is because the the background of everybody's career, like Curly going from the 400 to the 100, Bromell resurrecting his career, Kenny Bednarik, like a JUCO guy who was looking like a 2-4 guy. Now he's in the 100. You're looking at Gatlin. Hey, like how long is he gonna last? Bracy, is he gonna be able to? I'm talking about for 2022. Like, is he gonna be able to run that 9.8 at the right time? All those guys, and then you go international, and it's even better. Coleman, like coming back from the suspension. He goes Lyles with the double, and can he get the 100 right? There's just something with every single athlete. I think the perfect scenario is what you had in the women's 100, which was there's some intrigue about who will win, and they're also running all-time marks, and there's also a
yeah.
rivalry attached. That's the peak level of interest for me, or even like the 4-meter hurdles. Problem is the 4-meter hurdles they didn't run that much, but there was general McLaughlin or Muhammad, Warholm or Benjamin. You generally didn't know, but you knew whatever it was going to be amazing. That's the perfect scenario, just for my taste. But I know that that's rare. So yeah, given those two, I would opt for what we have right now. I think it's just an exciting era.
So my biggest surprise of 2021 was a race in May of 2021, the West Coast relays. We had an incredible early session where the men's 10K, we saw the NAU guys run fast times, qualify for the Olympic trials with those marks. Nico Young like rabbited 8K of a 10K. Who that's good. You're a good teammate when you're willing to rabbit 8,000 meters of a 10K. So we had a great morning session because of the heat, but then at night power went out, and it was a lights out race where they had to line the race with people with their cell phones so they could see around the track. And it was pretty wild. I mean, who would have thought that you would have a race being basically only visible because of people with cell phones on the track? So you can see, right now the lights are on, but the lights go out at one point. I think we'll see.
Are you only picking races for best of that were featured on FloTrack or Mouse Split? Is that your strategy?
Maybe, oh no! So the reason why you see lights right now is because of cars. So we're looking at this track because people got their cars and turn on their car lights to light up the track. I don't know. I think it's just kind of cool. See people with their phone. I think it's kind of cool where this is like an elite NCAA. They're trying to get fast times to qualify, and they know this is their last chance because in a few weeks there's conferences. This is going to be slow races, and they knew that they had to get the race in, and they figured out, all right, we're doing it. We're gonna turn on the car lights. We're gonna put out the flashlights, and they ran fast times. Like these BYU guys, they went quick. So that was my biggest surprise was a track meet with no lights.